Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of the Heavens Monsters podcast. I'm your boy SergDragon. With me always is Terrence, aka T-Money.
If you smell what the lion is cooking.
And today we are going to cover All Elite Wrestling, AEW, premiered on TNT on October 2nd. So here we go. First up, we actually have a recap and a show before that called The Countdown to All Elite Wrestling. In which case, I got to see that. It was good. I also got to see the pay-per-view that before this was announced that they were coming to TNT, was the pay-per-view called All Out. I got to see that, and it was amazing, dude. I'm sorry we couldn't watch it at my place. We were so busy. Anyway, the show would start with Cody Rhodes, the CEO or the VIP?
Let's say he's the promoter.
Something like that.
His wife is the CEO.
Mm-hmm. And he would fight Houston's own Sammy Guevara. Guevara?
Yeah.
Guevara.
He's not the owner though.
I know he ain't. And this guy, I remember, because he was at one point the Reality of Wrestling champion for Booker T's show, Reality of Wrestling.
Yeah.
ROH. Yeah, buddy. Ultimately, the match would end in Cody Rhodes' victory. Upset that he lost, he would want a handshake from Cody, and it was given. But from behind comes the winner of the first ever heavyweight championship, debuted on All Out by the best ever Bret the Hitman Hart. And the one he beat him for was the young rising star Hangman Page. And he beat him. And he was gloating up the ass. Also, I would like to point out a t-shirt that he is now. You might want this t-shirt.
I had the Chris Jericho t-shirt.
No. This was new. Okay. I know. Let me show you what it says, and you tell me if you have it. I actually watched this and laughed when he said it, because it was like he was trying to get himself happy. He was celebrating by himself because nobody was out there going, "Yay! Congratulations, Chris Jericho!" It was all dead quiet. You could hear a cricket. He was upset to no end, saying, "What? No party for Chris Jericho? I guess I'll celebrate myself. Look, not even good olives. We got cheap salami. Oh, but look at that. We got a little bit of the bubbly. Gonna have a little something of the bubbly. That's the t-shirt. He's gonna have a little bit of the bubbly on the bottom with his picture of how he looked when he was doing it. A little bit of the bubbly, like this. So, do you have the t-shirt?
No, I had the
one. Get that t-shirt. I think you'll be having funny every time you look at yourself in the mirror and go.
The one I have is the one that says Painmaker.
In which case, he rocks that new t-shirt after he brutally beats up Cody Rhodes and just lays him out, knowing that now he qualifies to take on Chris Jericho's contendership against the title and his first reign, or being the first ever AEW champion, world champion at that. And what was his name again? Sammy Guevara didn't bother to help Cody in any way, despite just shaking his hand. That sucked. I'm looking for the next match. Next match would be Brandon Cutler, a old-time starting out wrestling friend with the Young Bucks, but sadly had to give up the wrestling career to start a family, and now he's back, and now is not taken very seriously by I guess you would say, one of the right-hand man of Cody Rhodes. He was there to fight off against the guy who would be known as the Perfect 10, but now goes by a different name. when he had
Sean Spears.
Yeah, when he had Tessa Blanchard's father, what was his name? Blanchard? Tully Blanchard in his corner. He would have the heel smack talker Maxwell Jacob Friedman. It looks like fried.
But you know who's the Perfect 10 wife is? I think his fiance is none other than Peyton Royce. Big Hines.
Sadly to say, despite his reputation of trying to go get his name back up in the rankings, the guy is no slouch. MJF defeats Cutler. He's bragging about it. Next, we have a match that was issued after All Out pay-per-view. Because considering that Kenny Omega couldn't fight, what was his name? Dean Ambrose, what's his new name?
John Moxley.
He couldn't fight John Moxley because of the Stacks infection in his elbow. He ends up having to be filled in by the bastard Pac, otherwise known as Neville, King of the Cruiserweights, back in WWE. During that match versus Kenny Omega at All Out, people were crying out 205 in his days of the King of the Cruiserweights as Cruiserweight Champion. I guess people did like him back in the day in 205 Live, and they loved 205 Live for that.
He didn't like being a Cruiserweight.
Nope, he's definitely not. He got the win on Kenny Omega, of all things, after Kenny Omega lost to Chris Jericho for that shot at becoming a first time ever AEW World Champion. He lost it to Chris Jericho. So, in hopes of this, Hangman Page is issued a challenge after the show, after losing by the bastard Pac, saying he has unfinished business. The reason why he came back to AEW is revenge against Hangman Page. Adam Hangman Page. Thank you. Pac ultimately defeated Hangman Page the same manner he defeated Kenny Omega, by his submission hold. And also, might I add, and I want you to tell them this because this is what you told me. His signature move name has changed from his, what do you call it? The Phoenix corkscrew splash? No, what's it called? No, what was it called back then?
Back in the WWE days, it was called the Red Arrow.
Because he was having a feud with the actor who played the Green Arrow in the Arrowverse on CW. What was his name? The guy who played Arrow?
Stephen Amell.
Yeah. So he called it the Red Arrow back then, messing with him, but now he calls it in AEW
the Black Arrow.
There you go.
But he didn't have a feud with them though. You remember he had a feud with Cody Rhodes. Stephen Amell had a feud with Cody Rhodes.
Ultimately, though, it would be the submission hold that put Kenny Omega to sleep at All Out and made Hangman Page tap out. That sucked. We then have the title match for the AEW women's match. And dude, that title is tiny compared to the men's. They put all the budget into the men's title, but the women's title is so tiny.
I told you, remember I told you about her?
Yeah. She said it. She's a transvestite.
Transgender.
Transgender. Yeah, she called herself a transvestite. She herself.
Yeah, she was.
Well, it used to be a he. Now it's a she. Under the table. Man to woman, ladies and gentlemen. That's what this is. So we would have the championship match between Rio, and
Nia Rose.
Nia Rose. That's Nia Rose? Yeah, that is. The transvestite would be known as Nia Rose, and she's a beast. She's the beast in AEW. And Japanese Rio would actually be the underdog in the story, and it was a long match. It really was. The fans were cheering for them, top to bottom.
Well, they were cheering for Rio, if you heard the names.
Yeah, they were cheering for Rio, but they were loving the match nonetheless.
Yeah. She was having a hard time, but wow.
But she ended up getting the win, and a guy who is representing her wanted to congratulate her in Japanese, but got jumped by I pronounce
Naya.
That's a different way to spell Naya. That's why it threw me off. Nyla. See, Nyla Rose jumped her and is in a sour mood. Next match.
You know who came to save her?
Yep, it's Kenny Omega, the one who trained her. And they are squaring up. They're like, "Come on, fight me!" Next, we would have a 6-man tag team match between the Elite of the Bucks and Kenny Omega. Check out their YouTube video on Nightmare Family, which is renamed because of Cody Rhodes, against Chris Jericho and his choice of tag team partners. This footage would be shown that wasn't shown on the post-show, after show basically, on All Out pay-per-view. They would actually be the LAX members. They're not being called LAX for the record. They're called Santana and Ortiz, actually congratulating and saying thank you to Chris Jericho for winning the world title. So, we got heel Santana and Ortiz on AEW.
And so you know, Chris Jericho is the since he won the title, he became the 7-time world champion.
Never won as a babyface. That's what he said when he was training Tough Enough. And it would be Santana and Ortiz that Chris Jericho would choose to team up with to take on the Elite. Sadly, despite the fact that the fans were hoping for the Elite of the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega to win the match, the team of Chris Jericho and Santana Ortiz would actually win, ending the match with the tag teams of LAX, I want to still call them LAX, and the Codebreaker. Actually, it wasn't even the Codebreaker. It was actually Chris Jericho's new finishing move, where he comes and rotates and back elbows into the opponent, calling it by his music, the song, Judas. The Judas Effect. That's what it's called. I had to think about the song because I actually have the song. I have the song on my iPod. I'm back home, man. I'm back home, man.
You know, he's still using the Codebreaker.
Yeah, that is.
He's still using the Codebreaker.
He's still using the Codebreaker, the Walls of Jericho, the Lion Saw. He's using all that. And he has the Jericho theme song for his entrance.
You gotta remember, he's a rock star as well.
Oh, and that would be the... Oh, no. I remember. Ultimately, they would then attack the Elite. Even though they won, they would just attack him. And coming to the rescue is their dear friend Cody Rhodes. But then out of nowhere comes a man who we all recognize in WWE. And for those who have followed him, not me, in Lucha Underground and MMA. Undefeated in MMA would be Jack Swagger, going by the new name,
Jake Hager.
Jake Hager. And even his opponent tonight, Sammy Guevara, would actually come in and jump him as well. And even, if I'm correct, was it Juice Robinson that showed up too? No, it was Santana. That's who it was. It looked like Juice Robinson with a cut. That's what Santana looked like. Ultimately, it would be those 5 men that would just lay waste to the Elite members of Cody, Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega. And they would walk out and people would be asking, why? Why would you do this? What brought you 5 together? You want our answer? Here's our answer. I would see this on Instagram. And it would be Jake, what was his name?
Jake Hager.
Hager, that actually shoves the camera, issuing that dominance is here in All Elite Wrestling. And that will be the end of our show, as well as AEW Wrestling's first episode. And it was a good one. That was pretty good. I gotta admit. Oh, for the record, if you notice in WWE, in the front row, in the middle, every time when the camera angle is always pointed in one side, you notice a man wearing a green Kool-Aid t-shirt. He was there at All Elite Wrestling. Always look out for him. There's always a red cap guy wearing a light blue shirt, a white shirt, and a light blue top shirt, and the Kool-Aid man or Kool-Aid men. There's always yellow or purple with him. You know, or he by himself.
Are you talking about
the Kool-Aid guy t-shirt? He always wears a Kool-Aid t-shirt in the front row, and usually in the middle. He must be having a lot of dough to be getting those front row seats over and over every night when it airs on television. You notice that?
I never seen him before.
Well, pay attention next time, my brother. Pay attention. See if you noticed him. Put in the comments down below if you noticed him. And speaking of comments, I got to give a shout out to our remaining Heaven podcast members, Heaven Monsters podcast members. Hey, straighten that tongue. Straighten out my tongue. It would be Xavier Hill, Mike Henry, and Andre Mitchell. A link to their YouTube pages will be in the descriptions down below, as always. And a remaining shout out to Renee Farrell, Chris Petrie, and Delvin. Any final comments before we end this? All right. Thank you for watching, everybody. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Hit the subscribe button, like the content, and hit that notification bell for the next Having Monsters podcast. I'm SergDragon. This is T-Money, and we'll see you next time. Bye.